today's fast-paced business world, reliable logistics is key to success. That's where PC and FS Logistics come in. With a comprehensive range of services including air, sea and domestic transport, as well as secure warehousing, we've got your supply chain covered. From origin destination, our expert team ensures your goods are handled with care and delivered on time, every time.
Welcome to Football Lesson tonight, guys. It's party time again. Nobody listens to the music when they're talking to me live on here right now, but you guys can hear it right now. Hey, up. Feel it. Oh, God, I'm getting a dizzy spell. What is it? It's a special night, is it? Huh? Check it out. Welcome to Run the Football Lesson. It's live tonight in Australia, all around the world, Madagascar, Bangladesh, if you like. Hey! The cup of life. This is the one. Now is the time. Don't ever stop. We should've known, gotta be strong. We should've known, right from the top. And when you feel the heat, the world is at your feet. No one can hold you back if you really want it, Gary. I see it in your soul. You want the cup of life there, Angelo. My God, did you read? It's can Italy make it or what in the World Cup? Let's see if the cup happens. Here we go, Kenny. Let's do it right now. We are the people. We are the passion. Boy, are we going to be talking about history tonight. It's our way, the highway. This show's always about our the highway. We'd like to welcome right now all the way former Socceroo, wherever he's been there, Heidelberg, Fitzroy United, Preston Macedonia. Gary Cole, welcome to Footballers. Oh my God. What an intro.
Cheers, gents. Great.
What an intro.
To be here.
What an intro.
Wonderful invite. Some football royalty here tonight.
Of course.
So thank you for having me on.
Kenny, of course, and our regulars here right now. Angelo, direct from Italy. Welcome, boys. Welcome right now. Oh, God, it's one of those shows that you wish you were here in the crowd. The crowd screaming, but they can't hear it. You all guys are hearing it right now. Gary, thank you for joining us tonight. Of course, you're doing a lot of things in football. Of course, let's go back to soccer because it was soccer in those days. Now, I've got some documents here to read out to you, Gary. Do you mind?
Well, I do plead not guilty if you're going to read anything out like that.
Well, I've got these documents here. We're going to find these documents because these are very historical. What I found a few months ago, somebody sent me these documents, and I'm going to read this out right now. Now, there's a telegram that's firstly coming, and everybody should be listening to this. I can't show it to you because they should be in a museum, guys. These are over 40 years old. Soccer history. Don't call it football. It was soccer history at the time, guys. Please report to Marconi Soccer Club, Bosley Park, Tuesday, 15th, for the national squad practice match. You are booked on TAA, Gary. TAA. Oh my God! Flight 465 departing Brisbane. Were you in Brisbane at the time? I don't know. At the 2:35, returning next day at 7 a.m. overnight accommodation at the Chevron Hotel. Tell us about the Chevron Hotel.
The Chevron was a party down here in Melbourne. It was a disco. It was called the Chevron Hotel, but I'm not sure it had any rooms. It was more like it was after hours, after the game. A place that Kenny used to frequent on an ongoing, regular basis when he was in Melbourne.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Actually, it says here, Lefebvre football.
Actually, Harry, I was with Kenny Taylor a couple of weeks back, and we walked past it, and we were reminiscing.
What is this thing?
I think Gary's picture's still on the wall in there.
Mate, wait till you see what I've got. Why do you see what I've got here? Let me say, Angelo, we've never heard this name of this football, Lefebvre Football Sydney. What's Lefebvre? Have you heard of that? No? Mate, it's going 40 years ago here.
Yeah. I know. Off air, Gary was saying that we're showing our age, but
here we go.
The thing that I like about Harry is Gary. I was going to say Gary is the fact that he can bring information, and like from the old NSL, and of course he was part of the Aleague when it first started, when it first kicked off. So I mean, it's legendary, to have him on board today. It's an absolute great catch. Gary, I want to ask you the first question. I know there's lots of not documents, but I think Harry means articles. I think the documents.
Wait till you see what
it's true. Like that's a bit of legal entity.
Mate, you should.
But anyway,
go on.
what I want to ask Gary is, what does he think? What do you think has happened, Gary, in terms of the old NSL? Then we went into the A-League. As you know, we're all part of that. Yourself with Ernie Merrick, and of course you do your own pod, with coaches, and you're a wealth of information. But can you actually let us know and perhaps share with our viewers and listeners what are your thoughts on the change? Like in terms of the game evolved.
Look, I think it probably had to happen. That as fondly as we love and remember the old NSL, because it was so special to us. We played in it, we watched it, we cheered people on. We went to the grounds for a Suvi or whichever nationality we're going in. I still think of some of the grounds, and I tie back the smells as you were walking in, because there was always something on the barbie. But it had tried and got to a point, and it was sort of stuck and wasn't going anywhere. So we blow it all up, big review, spend a whole bunch of money, get some government money involved, and then we decide to form the A-League, which is 20 years old now. This year is the 20th season, so which was an interesting idea. Another way to probably, I don't think this was ever said publicly, but maybe another way to de-emphasise the game. Because there was that very criminal thing of tying nationalities back to football clubs, which has been, we don't want that for a while. So it was another way of doing that, and it like any new league. I keep looking at the J League, which is in Japan, is absolutely flying along. The MLS in America is on its second or third go around. Right now we've got people like David Beckham owning football clubs and being able to bring Lionel Messi in to play in front of huge crowds. But that wasn't what happened in the MLS when New York Cosmos were around, who came to Australia and toured, So look, this thing takes a whole bunch of time when you're starting from scratch. I just think at the moment it's a little bit lost. The A-League has its own fans, people that don't remember the NSL, and some of us would like to remind them from time to time that it did go on, because it was so special and played an important part of football history. But the reality is they don't know anything other than that. Then you've got guys like us that know the both, and we can tell you the good things about the NSL. We can tell you about the good things about the A-League. But right now, I just think we're not quite sure. We're sort of treading water at the moment, waiting for something. There are plenty of good things going on in Australian football right now. There are plenty of good things. Not everything that everyone loves all of the time, but there is plenty of good stuff. And I keep coming back to the point that today there's more men, more women, more boys, more girls, more clubs, more referees than any time in the history of Australian football. That tells you that there's got to be something right. Even if we're, excuse my French, fucking everything up, somewhere, somehow we're doing something right, because the game's is where it is. Moving.
Okay, now
I can keep talking about that, but that's really where I'm at, actually.
Then you guys look, and what you said, yes, we all say that sort of thing. But right now, we've got the Australian Socceroos already made the World Cup 12 months ahead. Of course, we're going, and it's a fantastic opportunity, as it was a few years ago when Socceroos played in Qatar, and then 6 months later we had the World Cup. And I was talking about the next 6 months is a fantastic opportunity in terms of commercial sense, Yeah, and now the Socceroos have made it. The Matilda's got the Asia Cup in March.
Yep.
Okay. So this is an absolute extraordinary window in terms of attracting the commercial partners to Australia. Of course, you can't get any more publicity of the fact that you make the World Cup. However, this is my question, Gary. This is my question. Yep. Why is there so much gap between the brand of the Socceroos and the Matildas and the A-League, right? Because the media, and no one might be saying this, because I work with the media, when Victory, you guys had a media manager, it was absolutely extraordinary, the publicity we're getting. But why is there absolutely no interest from the media when someone puts out a media release from the A-League clubs? And we absolutely struggling in terms of getting bumps on seats in some of the clubs that were, because we're getting no publicity at all. Why is that, Gary? I mean, you do your own show as well.
Yeah, look, I honestly, I can't tell you. You know, because they're producing. Well, sorry, Football Australia produces content. You know, they've got huge returns. You look at the Women's World Cup, the Matildas, the Socceroos, even the Football Australia, and even now creating content for the under-17s and the under-20s. Trevor and his guys won the Asian Cup and the under-23s. Because the media don't do it anymore, it's like. But that happens in clubland as well. So at Melbourne Victory, Sydney FC, they've all got people employed to create content because the media don't do that stuff anymore. So that essentially the game itself has to write stories, take photos, shoot videos, try and find engaging things, get their players on social media. You know, it's very, very different in terms of the way that the content of that, what the media does, happens. I mean, as far as I know, there's probably only one, possibly two people employed in football media now. You know, there's just no one down here in Melbourne.
Oh, no.
Michael Lynch's son, Joey, is a consultant. He's consulting out to ESPN. But I don't think in Melbourne we've got a single person employed by the media.
No, we don't.
Directly to you know, apart from the TV channels. But, you know, most of those guys are part-time as well. So,
Exactly.
But I cannot explain that. I don't understand it. And I'm that old now, I've given up trying to work it out.
I'm going to bring Kenny on right now. I'm going to mention these names, Kenny, and of course Gary's involved in this. Now I've got this document here saying selection national squad players on behalf of the ASF and the VSF have been requested to inform you that the following players are required to report to Mr. T. Bodgy or Boggy at Olympic Park number 1 Oval Tuesday 15th 1979 at 6:15 p.m. specialised training. Really, in those days? Those players required by the Victorian state coach will report in the first instance to the state coach at Olympic Park. The names, right? S. Baxter, D. Cummings, G. Cole,
Duncan?
G. Cole,
Gary?
J. Tansey, V. Banovich, hang on, this is a hard one. Bozzy Kiss. Different fella.
Yeah.
Andy.
Andy played with the boy, with all the boys at Heidelberg.
T. Salamides.
That's a Heidelberg team in the
No. Wait a minute.
Kenny, at that time, we had nine players in the squad at one stage.
Jesus. Listen to this one. G. Christopoulos. That changes all. A. Davidson. G. George Campbell. Right? Did George make the squad for the Socceroos? I can't believe it was it. J. Kondarios. Footscray.
Central defender.
J. Palinkas. Footscray. J. Piccioni. Is it Piccione or Piccione?
Yeah.
Z. Luich. Now this is funny. Peran Slavia. Boy, that's going back. J. Eisendorn. And we're talking K. Calafatides. You know who that is. And Andy Bazikas. Andy, it sounded like that name before, Bazikas. So Andy has a massive story. I heard about that story about him. He said to me that the reason why he's at Heidelberg is because they swapped him for who? Who'd they swap him for? You know who I'm talking about. That player who passed away. Oh, God. Kokinos. What's his name? Yes.
Ulysses.
Ulysses Kokinos. That's right.
Ulysses.
So this is a historical document. But the thing about this is, you should see. These are the clubs: 2 South Melbourne, South Melbourne Soccer Club, Footscray Soccer Club, Heidelberg Soccer Club, and Peran Slavia. One player, John Eisendorn. Mate, that brings back memories. Kenny, you would have played against all these guys.
Yeah, but then Heidelberg signed John Eisendorn. So he went to Heidelberg.
Of course, yeah, but it was Peran Slavia, mate. Peran Slavia. That's the thing. So this is the thing, and also, go on.
There must have been a paper bag full of money at that training session.
Oh, mate, I tell you, bloody hell. Now I've got this one here for Gary. International soccer, number one ground, Olympic Park. Listen to this. Sunday, 11th of June, 1978 at 3 p.m, Australia versus Greece. Listen to this. Paying for a child, $1? $1. Mate, I got in there for $1. I was a kid. I got in for $1. Oh, Jesus. I couldn't.
Yeah, you had to pay to get out, though, in those days.
Mate. And, of course, There's the ticket. They've got the ticket now. Gary, here you are. I've got to read this one. It says here, Socceroo's sunk. Socceroo's sunk. This is the Sun, Monday the 12th of the 6th, 1978. It says here, Greece came from behind to beat Australia with 2 goals from up-and-coming star Chris, he's a Greek fella, from Olympic Park. Australia's experimental young 11 had taken a shock lead when Fitzroy striker Gary Cole scored in the 62nd minute. What do you remember about that?
I remember a lot. That was my Socceroo's debut.
Yes.
I can also remember that Olympic Park had a decent crowd, obviously, with the second largest Greek city in the world. The Socceroos were booed onto the pitch by a sea of Greeks. That was the most friendly booing you could ever wish to hear, because they were all South Melbourne and Heidelberg fans as well. So George Christopoulos also made his debut that night. We led 1-0. And the reason it happened, the way it was experimental, that game was supposed to be a part of the World Cup preliminary games. Jim Shoulder was the coach after they failed to qualify for the 78 World Cup. So the game was already arranged and booked, and what they decided to do was, I think they played Greece here in Adelaide and in Sydney, and they gave a whole bunch of young players an opportunity to get some international football.
Yes.
With Jim Shoulder, before he was just sort of caretaker role before Mr. Rudy Guttendorf arrived.
Oh, nice fella. So it says here with came through a ruck playing set. Stevenson, who combined to set up Cole's goal, also were named as future internationals. Shoulder, it says here, Shoulder, who in a last series at Australian coach said nobody came out of the game with a reputation tarnished. Remember our boys? Yeah, that's what it says. It was cut off. So there you go, Jim Shoulder. That's memories, mate. That's unbelievable stuff.
Memory lane. Yeah, it was great.
So
big,
this
big
is
night.
To have this.
The other thing is there was a sea of blue and white, because there were obviously Greek flags and Greek shirts. But the only green and gold in the crowd was if someone's nan had knitted them a scarf, because back then, of course, there was couldn't buy shirts, you couldn't buy caps or memorabilia. So there was an awful lot of green and gold. And it was a bit like an away game in Melbourne, but it was a great experience.
Now, this is another one before we start something else. It says here, Calafatides or Cosmina. Calafatides or Cosmina. It says here, 2 of Australia's best young players are striker John Cosmina, West Adelaide Hellas, and defender Chris Calafatides of South Melbourne. Both are candidates for the, whatever it is. Can you read this? Of course, Best Under-21 Player Award. Cosmina has been in news regularly this year as West Adelaide's top scorer, and of course, that's the thing, when he scored the goals at Australia 2-1 victory over South Korea. Mate, this, I could go on forever, I don't want to go, but this is amazing. They're picking Chris Calafatides over John Cosmina, but Chris did play his only game for the Socceroos that day. You played your first, remember that? That was it, and Chris was very good that he played as a Socceroo, and that was the main thing. What did you? I mean, that game. I was at that game, Gary. I was behind the goals when you scored. I was right behind him. I couldn't, as a young kid there, watching you guys. And Peter Loomitz, bloody Peter Loomitz, mate. What a goalkeeper he was, eh?
Good, great keeper. Yeah, no, Pete was great. I played in the Victorian under-16s with Pete as well. It was a great night. I tell you, that time as well, I'd actually forgotten this. I did a little bit of research, and I can't remember why, because Cozzy and I played in that game together. We went on an under-23 tour before we actually had an under-23 team. But Cozzy had played for the Socceroos through that qualification period.
In today's fast-paced business world, reliable logistics is key to success. That's where PC and FS Logistics come in. With a comprehensive range of services including air, sea and domestic transport, as well as secure warehousing, we've got your supply chain covered. From origin destination, our expert team ensures your goods are handled with care and delivered on time, every time.
Period. So he was added in. So at the age of 20, he played for the Socceroos and was starting up front in that Socceroos team that missed out on that qualification for the 78 World Cup. What a fantastic player he was.
Gary, was it a really hard time for the Socceroos at that time? Was it really hard time to qualify? We're playing against South Korea, and we were in Asia at the time, weren't we? We were playing against Asian opposition.
No, we were still in Oceania, so we first had to qualify out of Oceania, which they did. But they lost to Olympic Park to Iraq or Iran or something like that. Which could us back in the day, of course. Remember, there was only 16 teams qualified.
Yes.
So it was always difficult to do it. How the bloody 1974 group did it, a bunch of part-timers, was quite remarkable. And to put that into perspective now, there's a whole bunch of chat in this FIFA Club World Cup about Auckland City. They're all carpenters and milkmen and delivery drivers and all this. Phys ed teachers and
dentist,
but that's where the 1974 Socceroos were.
Exactly. So you guys took over from there,
and they didn't get smacked 11-0 by anyone. They gave good account of themselves against West Germany, East Germany.
Jeez, exactly. Yes, and that was the thing. So Kenny,
that time that Gary's talking about, 78. I think that was just at the time just after that because he went to Arsenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't long after that, Kenny. Yeah, he was there for about a year before he came home again.
And everyone talks about it, but I read an article that Terry Neal, who was the Arsenal manager at the time, said he actually said he wished that because he got homesick and came back. He says, but he reckoned he would have made it.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
He was a fantastic player. Because he wasn't as tall as me, but he was quick and strong, was very, very good in the air, and he had that nastiness in him that you had to have if you were going to play football at that level,
Can I just?
But technically very good as well.
Can I tell you guys about him? A few years ago, we had him on the show here, and at the end of the show, he said, "I don't even know what I'm doing on this show, guys. I didn't really want to come on here." I said, "We were just like going like this." We were shocked. Kenny, you got him on the show. Remember that? You got him to come on. I remember.
Yeah, I got him. Yeah. I mean,
dude, what am I doing?
I mean, I'll tell you what. I'd rather have him in my team than playing against him. I've got that right,
mate. That was so funny.
I was fortunate enough. We had a New South Wales team. It was playing parallel to the Australian team, and Raleigh Razic and Atia Boni were the coaches, and we played Dinamo Zagreb. And mate, we had the front line of Joe Watson wide right, Cosy through the middle, and Phil O'Connor wide left.
Bloody hell!
Not bad.
What a team we had. Midfield, John Stoddart, Hussein Husseini, who was an Iranian international who we got at Olympic, and Kafka from Sydney, Croatia. It was Dinamo Zagreb.
Yeah, we
beat them 2-1. Cosy scored the 2 goals. And then Zagreb the following week played the full Australian team and battered them.
Jesus, mate. Bloody hell.
Mate, but Cosy, Joe Watson, I mean, some of the players back then, Phil O'Connor,
fantastic player.
They were just something special,
I just want to bring something in here. I've got a few little things that with a lot of different issues tonight. Now, Gary, you played in the NSL many years ago, of course. In 2004, we had a break because of changing over to the A-League. Now I want to talk about the clubs that are coming into another national competition called the. I'm going to call this my way. Sorry, I got to call it the NSL Australian Championship. The NSL Australian Championship, Gary. That must bring back memories for you, Gary, too. But let me just say, these clubs have been away for 20 years. How do you feel that they've been in limbo for so long? We're talking about here, landscapes changed, everything. The difference between the generations have changed. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, who's going to turn up, what support's going to be for this. What are you thinking, Gary, about this competition?
Yeah, look, I always like it when football grows, and this is growth. It's not what we wanted. I think, and the clubs that are in it, those foundation clubs, wanted a full-time league. They wanted a home and away league that had, whatever it is, 20 teams, 16 teams in that home and away competition. But that's not what it is first time around. I'm not a big fan of this format, I have to say, because you've got these 8 foundation clubs and then the 8 NPL club winners. So it becomes a bit like this made-up competition. I can understand why, which will be to do with, making it work financially. And that's a part of all this. I've had some challenges around not challenges, conversations with my old club, Heidelberg, and some of the other people that are embedded in the NPL clubs. And I think they've forgotten just how expensive it is to run a club at that level. There were many, many clubs in the old NSL weren't broke or weren't paying wages, couldn't pay wages. That's still happening, of course, because Western United down here are in that situation now. So I think it's unique. I like it. I like it because it's another competition, an opportunity for more Australian players to have a taste of that next level, particularly the younger players, get around it, have a bit more of a go. And obviously they're living in hope that this is somehow, I don't know what we need, whether it's a sponsor that we need. We need more clubs. I mean, the one of the concerning things was those 8 foundation clubs. I think there's 5 from Sydney, 3 from Melbourne, and if you include Wollongong. So it's an Australian competition, but it's a Sydney Melbourne focus right now. And obviously the deposit that was required to get into the competition, most people couldn't come up with. So I do like it. I think it's a long way from being perfect right now, but hey, if we can get more games for more players to play, it's going to improve the overall quality of their game, then, I don't think we could lose by it.
Yeah, I'll just bring Kenny.
Unless it folds after 2 seasons.
Yeah, Kenny, I'll bring Angelo a sec. Now, Kenny, this last weekend, mate, it was amazing. They had you called it the biscuit tin, is that right? That was it at Marconi. They were showcasing the trophy at Marconi. Kenny, did you get out there and see what did you call the cup? What's it called? Bloody hell.
Well,
Mickey.
It looks like a biscuit tin to me, but look, all of a sudden, the South Melbourne and the Preston presidents were parading it around everywhere. But it looks like an Arnott's biscuit tin to me with a head on it. But anyway,
no, Angela.
But that's for another night. But look, the issue they're going to have is the NPL nationally doesn't finish till I think it's the 24th of August. And lots of the clubs that might win the NPL have already stated that they can't financially play in this competition.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a situation where that I suppose Football Australia are going to have to be negotiating with clubs potentially who can't afford to play in it, and they're going to have to go 1 drop to 2, to 2 to 3.
Yes.
The other issue is if any of the 8 founding clubs win their competitions, you're already at 2, 3, 4.
Oh, God.
It's probably one of the most mismatched.
I could see Gary.
And,
my God.
And the problem you're going to get is hotels, flights, grounds. You're going to be trying to book these first week of September for a kick-off on the 10th of what we talk about 12th of October. As Gary says, people don't realise it's not easy to book 22 seats on a plane to go and go back. You try and do it. It's very, very difficult.
The best thing.
Look, there's some of these clubs also have got to get through the season. Whether they're going to be still around.
That's the other
issue.
Angelo, the best thing about go on, Gary.
No, I was just going to say that the other interesting thing is South Melbourne are in the bottom half of the NPL1 competition. They've been really strong for a long, long time, but they're really struggling right now. Preston, I think, are 5th. The Burgers, my Burgers, are 3 points clear at the top. Avondale are 3 points behind that, and I think they've got 6 or 7 games to go down here in Melbourne. So, just who's in form. Can you imagine South Melbourne were in the bottom 3 and we're getting relegated?
Oh, my God.
To the second.
They lost.
Gary, they're still in the championships.
Angelo,
terrible.
South Melbourne, Angelo drew. They were 3-1 up until the last few minutes, and that was a 3-3 draw. Oh my God, you don't lose in that position. Now, Angelo, you're in Italy, right? No one has to fly distances to play in different states. You're just there an hour away, 2 hours away. I mean, for God's sakes, they must get buses to do this. You reckon we could get the Queenslanders go down by buses?
Harry, you've obviously never driven in the Amalfi Coast.
Mate, honestly, boys, don't get me to go too far.
No,
But Angelo, go on.
I think the logistics are very difficult. What Gary was saying is absolutely spot on. You know, there's a budget, they're expensive, and the Australian Championship, you know, it's a starting point, I think. You know, it's a starting point. No team from Brisbane, and you were talking about Heidelberg and South Melbourne not doing well. What about Adelaide City that have won, you know, 3 titles, the Pearl 3 Cup? They are not top in Adelaide.
They're not.
So, as Jenny was saying, if this criteria has to be revisited, because otherwise you're not going to get the right competition. You know, you've got the 8 foundation clubs, and yes, look, some of them, you know, they've got it right with South Melbourne, Sydney Olympic, and you know, Marconi and Apia and all those other teams. But I think the worrying aspect of this is the finance, the long-standing financial sustainability, and you know, I feel for the game in Australia because, as I was saying before, I asked Gary that question, you know, the distance between the brand of the Socceroos, the Matildas, and then the interest is sky high. The interest is absolutely sky high. But I think the second-tier competition, unless they revisit the criteria, you know, I just don't want it to be a laughing stock. I don't want it to be another negative point right throughout the country. The game doesn't need that. I mean, when Socceroos and Matildas play, we all know what happens, you know, but when we've got the A-League, the women's national competition, the NPL, and of course, you know, I was asking Gary about the problems at, you know, Melbourne, because that's another reason, that's another nail in the coffin, you know, when we get problems with crowds going out, you know, fighting like a tribal, you know, like Greeks versus Italians and Croatians and so on and so on and so on. Because, you know, gentlemen, we've done some fantastic work. And Gary will back me up on this. When we first started the A-League with an 8-team competition, you know, it was absolutely sky high. The interest was fantastic. Sold out stadiums. And, of course, Melbourne Victory, when Gary was involved with Ernie Merrick and Kevin Muscat was the captain, they were the leading lights of Australia. You know, that was the talking points even outside of Australia, in England, you know, there were commentators and, you know, like fans and critics talking about the A-League. The problem is now with this Australian Championship, Harry, going back to this trophy that's parading around Australia.
I know that.
That's all fine. It's all fine. But, gentlemen, I think that Football Australia, who are the governing body behind this Australian Championship, not the APL.
No.
My advice is revisit the criteria and just see whether it's more feasible.
In today's fast-paced business world, reliable logistics is key to success. That's where PC and FS Logistics come in. With a comprehensive range of services including air, sea and domestic transport, as well as secure warehousing, we've got your supply chain covered. From origin destination, our expert team ensures your goods are handled with care and delivered on time, every time.
The problem you've got, I mean, Gary mentioned earlier on about the Auckland team. I mean, most people thought that Auckland team was the A-League team. It was a Jolly Boys.
Yes.
It was an NPL pub team.
Believe it.
That all the boys have got together, and they've gone by bus to get to America, right?
Just about on a boat.
And they will come back with the greatest memories in their lifetime. They're playing Bayern Munich. And Bayern Munich were beating them 7-0, and they were so embarrassed they stopped playing. They were so. I watched the whole game. You could see the Bayern Munich players looking at each other, going, "Why are these people on? Why is this team in this competition?" You know, I mean, and then everyone's saying, "Look how bad the A-League is. Look how bad the Auckland is."
Of course. There you go. Yeah. That's the thing. So let me just say one thing about this too, is that we spoke about the A-League before. I've had so many people talk to me, and someone's just come on here right now saying, somebody's coming here as a South Melbourne supporter. This is the South Melbourne supporter that never leaves me alone. He always talks to me. He's put so many things on here, and I tell you what, he says to me, Top show, Harry. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Any news on Western United, Harry? Hang on for a sec. And then he says, any news on Western United situation, Harry? Any news on Western United, Harry? Oh my God, it keeps going. Do you know why, Gary? Do you know why? Have you heard? Have you caught on about that? Have you caught on a little bit? Some things are actually in the pipeline for some reason. Boy, oh boy.
Mate, the A-League's not going to give South Melbourne this.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not saying anymore. I didn't say that. Didn't say that at all.
Pink fit, right?
Yeah.
In a pink fit.
It's not going to happen.
More chance of Canberra or Wollongong getting it than South Melbourne. I mean, as Gary says, South Melbourne may get relegated to the NPL2 the way it's going.
They're lucky they're above water at the moment too. So let me just say the financial status of these clubs. Brisbane, Kenny, we spoke about that. Oh my God, they're trying to wind them up. I mean, are they gone? You reckon they're gone or what?
Mate, look, Perth.
Yes.
Obviously, they're 2/5 of close to being gone, right? Let's say that there's not any investment there. There's no growth there. There's nothing happening. So it's a dead duck currently. Western United, Macarthur, 2 dead ducks.
Yep.
Brisbane has been on its knees for 14, 15 months.
Those guys.
Newcastle technically shouldn't have been allowed to play in the comp for 3 seasons because 3 of the other teams that they were playing against were funding them. It could only happen in Australia. It could only happen in Australia.
Mate, this is
right?
bargain.
Let me say that one of the particular 3 clubs took 3 of their best players outside the transfer window. I mean, you couldn't write about it. Honestly, you couldn't write about it. And you've got someone like Central Coast Mariners, who I actually thought Mark Jackson had left, but I found out yesterday from our friend Alan.
I thought he left too.
No,
he stayed there.
Yeah, no, he's still at Mariners. So that was false information that was thrown out. But they've got no money, mate. They can't buy any players. They've cut the budget to next to nothing. It's basically semi-professional, back to where we were.
It is.
3-4 nights a week, because they just cannot come up with $8 or $9 million a year with TV money at $450,000.
No way.
Yeah, they can't come up. The gate receipts, they're getting they're getting good crowds, 7,500, 8,000 a fortnight, right? But they give tickets away. They bring the kids in for free.
Yep.
So they're well short of meeting and they're one of the cheap budgets. Sydney FC's and Central Coast Mariners. Sydney FC, Melbourne City. Their budgets are up 12, 14 million.
Yeah.
But they've got money behind them.
I want to bring Angelo. I'm going to go back to Clive Palmer, Gold Coast United, and right now Gold Coast United are in big trouble on the Gold Coast. They were trying to fix a game. It's all come out in the news. What a joke! And they want to play in the A-League again after all this has come through. A Chinese fella trying to a company in China was telling him, "We'll show you how to fix it." And it's all been recorded and everything. He's in big trouble. But the problem here is this: going back to Clive Palmer owning Gold Coast United, close up the stadium, don't put nobody in there. I mean, this is exactly the same as Brisbane. Exactly same as Brisbane, Kenny, and of course Gary, mate. The stadium is empty. We're talking about Suncorp Stadium's empty, and there's probably not even 100, 200 people or something. And of course, Kenny, you heard what Richard Raw did there, screaming his head off. Anybody could listen to anybody with the way he spoke there, like complaining to them about what's going on. And they brought a security guard. He wanted to tell them, "Hey, can you fix this?" And they've told him to shut up with the security guard. I mean, this is come on, Angelo. This is a disgrace.
We've discussed
this is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
There's a time and place to be doing that.
But they don't want. And let me say this: these clubs, the amount of clubs, Angelo, who are in deep trouble, and of course, Gary, they don't want to speak to their members. They don't want to say nothing. They're always talking between themselves on Facebook and all social media, and they don't want to talk. Angelo, is that fair enough for the members, Angelo? Being in this industry,
look. Absolutely. Look, gentlemen, you guys are talking about something to do with finance and budgets. For example, television rights. I mean, even in Italy, the Serie A, the Serie B in England, and in every country in Europe, they depend on television rights because there's millions and millions and millions of dollars. In Australia, let's go back to that 40 million windfall,
Oh, God.
and then it just disappeared. I think every club was getting around about 2 to 2.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's good money. It's a good base to for expenses, for expenses and so on. And I think that's the problem with Australia. It's not being packaged. It's not being packaged right. For example, you might say, what are you talking about? Well, we've got the brands, the Socceroos and the Matildas. We keep mentioning that because the Matildas are the biggest club, the biggest entity in the history of Australian sport, not just soccer. I mean, when we talk about television, that was invented in 1950. The Matildas smashed all the records, not just of soccer games or football, AFL, but of television programs. Now, we're talking about a statistic that can be utilised in the commercial world to attract money. Now, at the end of the day, I'll go back to my point to simplify it. We need to package the television rights, including the Socceroos, the Matildas, the maybe even the Aleague, the A-League, and the Women's League. If you package it all up, we would strengthen our bid to attract money from big sponsors. I mean, I was saying to a friend of ours that you guys all know, a very knowledgeable person that's worked in the game.
Yes.
Let me tell you that there are sponsors, commercial partners like PlayStation, Mars, and all of those sponsors that back football at the World Cups and all that sort of thing that can be attracted to Australia. You might say, why? The Socceroos have made the World Cup. Italy still trying to make the next World Cup after failing too. Socceroos, fantastic position. The Matildas, they've got the Asia Cup coming up in just over 6 months, 7 months. So why aren't our commercial directors sitting behind the desk? Some big sponsors are only a phone call away, and you just need to tell them the benefits.
Look,
it's interesting. It's interesting, Angelo. I mean, I take your point, but I'm in business. We're on a lot of us in business, mate. Money's not that free anymore. It's companies. I mean, for example, the Socceroos had to settle for Subway. They had to settle for Subway because that's all they could get. That was that. That was the best we could get. There was no money getting thrown at us. And we qualified for the World Cup.
I'm sorry, Kenny. I need to interrupt you because in terms of business, I know you're in business. I'm in business. Gary, of course, knows all about that. Let me tell you something. When you've got something that can give a return, it's sort of reciprocal, okay? We talked about post-COVID, when COVID happened and people weren't going to the stadiums. Real Madrid get empty stadiums and all that sort of thing. And, yet they could afford Gareth Bale at 100 million. 100 million. Now, what I'm trying to say, as long as you can demonstrate a return, okay, reciprocal benefits to a commercial partner, he'll go in there or she'll go in there because they can get a return. You need to demonstrate that. Right now, Australia, gentlemen, it's a very exciting 12 months.
Angelo,
very exciting.
I listen to you and I know what you're saying.
What?
But let me tell you, I'll throw this at you. Why is Optus Sport giving up the greatest TV spectacle league in the world? Why? The greatest league, the Premier League,
of course, Gary.
Optus
You got
Sport has given it away. They've given it away. They can't afford to keep it.
Subscribe.
Yeah, but
what would you pay?
Kenny, Optus is not just invested into the English Premier League. They've got other investments, and maybe they had to give away the Premier League as a consequence of all the other sports that they back and all that sort of thing. I mean, I don't think football in the world has ever been short of $1. That's what I was trying to say to you when Real Madrid moved at a crisis period. I would like to bring Gary in on this.
In today's fast-paced business world, reliable logistics is key to success. That's where PC and FS Logistics come in. With a comprehensive range of services including air, sea and domestic transport, as well as secure warehousing, we've got your supply chain covered. From origin destination, our expert team ensures your goods are handled with care and delivered on time, every time. Do you have what it takes to become a soccer superstar? Look no further than Soccer Pro Academy. Led by experienced coaches, including a former Socceroo, the Academy provides world-class training to help you reach your full potential. From technical skills to tactical awareness, they'll help you develop the skills and mindset needed to succeed at the highest level. Soccer Pro Academy, where champions are made.
Are you looking for the perfect kit for your football club? Try Arrow Sport today. From jerseys to shorts to socks, Arrow Sport will have you completely covered. We can even cover your merchandising line, including hats, beanies, scarves, jumpers, and so much more. So if you're looking for excellent lead times, great pricing, and even better quality, try Arrow Sport today by looking at our website at arrowsport.com.au. And even better quality, try Arrow Sport today by looking at our website at arrowsport.com.au.
Looking for a haven to unwind and indulge? Look no further than Brista Cafe, nestled in the heart of Derrimut Village Shopping Centre. From decadent homemade gourmet cookies to scrumptious muffins, every bite is a delight. Everyone loves Brista Cafe, and you will too. So why wait? Visit Brista Cafe today and taste the difference for yourself.
Hi guys, Harry Sunday here, letting you know that there's a apparel company that supports the game that you love. It's called ThereIsOnlyOneFootball.com, guys. They've got all sorts of stuff, from caps, t-shirts, water bottles, all sorts of accessories, even for your mobile phone.
In today's fast-paced business world, reliable logistics is key to success. That's where PC and FS Logistics come in. With a comprehensive range of services including air, sea and domestic transport, as well as secure warehousing, we've got your supply chain covered. From origin destination, our expert team ensures your goods are handled with care and delivered on time, every time.
Look, I think part of the challenge here is that the A-League's owned by millionaires, yeah? And the reality in the business of football, it's a billionaire's business today. So in the early days of the A-League, the TV broadcast distribution to the A-League clubs covered the salary cap, not including the marquee players. So in the early days, when in season 2, when Melbourne Victory added marquee players, Sydney City added the marquee players in, you had to have a club that had enough income coming in from both membership and obviously your sponsorship to be able to pay all the other expenses. But essentially, the broadcast rights covered the players' wages. Now, I've got no idea about the English Premier League, but we all know that the broadcast rights for the English Premier League, like the AFL and like the NRL, that's $1 billion deal over however many years they roll that out, and that money is going back to clubs essentially to pay the wages of the players. Then they have to run their business outside of that. That's my take on it. I don't know that's not written in gospel. I've not got that from someone. That's my take on what I know about the business of it. So the challenge here is, if you I win tax lotto, whatever it is, I run a really, really successful business, I'm a multi-millionaire, and I buy into Perth Glory or I buy into Brisbane Roar, and I look at the books and go, Jesus, I'm a millionaire, but I'm not a billionaire. So the first thing I start to do is cut costs. So, Brisbane bumps off their academy. Perth, the first thing they bump off an academy.
They're done.
Which is really interesting, because you would think that the academy is a part of the future of the club. Player development, they're all, we've in this year, we've probably had more transfers overseas than we have in any year since the bloody golden generation were playing football. I've got no idea what the dollar value are. So I think we're sort of caught in this thing. We've got people that want to invest in the game, but today just means
it's scared. They're all scared.
The fact that you're a millionaire it actually isn't good enough.
But what does it give you, Gary? What When you see
Sorry?
Gary, when you see empty stadiums, do you think millionaires are going to come and say, "Oh, what am I going to do here now? What am I going to pay? I'm going to lose." And then all of a sudden, this guy's paid the money. He's gone broke.
Why would you?
And the other thing is, then they get another guy. They put another guy in there. Well, I'm going to put the money into. He goes broke. I mean, this is a pattern that goes on and on. There's nothing to take the game forward with deals or anything or big sponsors. But let me just say one thing about this too, guys, and everybody out there. I have a sponsor ready to go. But they don't want the sponsor. They don't want this sponsor. Okay, they could put in, Kenny, like you said, Subway Socceroos, and it's embarrassing to say that. The other sponsor I got's embarrassing too, but they want to put money into it. That's fine. I'll ask them again, do you want this sponsor, yes or no? I can't mention the sponsor's name. I can't do that. But see, Angelo, I've got a sponsor, but it's an embarrassing sponsor. What am I going to do now? I've spoken to people, yeah, okay. Well, it's embarrassing.
I think, Harry, one thing, there's nothing to be embarrassed about.
Oh, really?
Okay?
I'm not going to say
these days, everybody, no, nothing to be embarrassed about. Honestly, when you're going and ask for a proposition, there's no longer donations like Gary when he was playing in the NSL and Kenny.
Yep.
There was barbecues, and Gary mentioned. Then, of course, the Aleague started, and I think people started changing their mindset about investment. For example, if I give you $100,000, okay, what are you going to give me in return? And you need to demonstrate that because people are no longer going to put donations on the table. Now, with the A-League, it is obvious, like you're saying, that I'm getting crowds. Western United, for example, they won the A-League, and then the following year, their membership then increased, their fan base then increased. So that's the best time when you can actually increase the commercial now and all the rest of it that comes along with when you win a title. Everybody wants it. But, gentlemen, I don't think that the clubs, okay, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, I don't think that the clubs have got people with the right expertise, right, to actually attract the sponsors and demonstrate the return. And of course, if you don't get the crowds, like Kenny was saying before, what are you going to sell? Okay? However, because it doesn't stand on its own, I'll go back to what I was saying. It needs to be packaged. Our game is flourishing in terms of participation. Our game is flourishing in terms of the Socceroos and the Matildas. Okay? We need to actually package it up and bring in the A-League and the Women's League as well. Okay, gentlemen? That's probably...
Okay.
The other comparison we've got, which we don't compare to any place in the world, none of our clubs have got any assets.
No, they don't.
They haven't got...
No.
99% of the clubs don't have an asset. I mean, Marconi did in Sydney and Croatia did, but none of the A-League teams own a shekel. So they don't generate, alcohol, food. No. They don't generate anything. So all they're doing is paying. The interesting fact is with most of the big clubs, Manchester United are at $1.4 billion pounds, no dollars, sorry, pounds in debt that's getting funded. The value in Manchester United is the brand. It's valued at nearly £6 billion. But they're funding a debt level, enormous amount of debt level. The Americans have actually bought the club for a bank loan. And then you've got the Arab money or the Middle Eastern money, they don't care. They're having fun. It's like, again, they're coming into the UK and Germany and places like that, and they're buying clubs because they've got so much money, it doesn't matter. Yeah. PSG, it doesn't matter. But there's only a few elite clubs like that. The rest of the world, if you don't have a massive brand, as in worldwide supporting clubs, like the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, the Man Uniteds, the Liverpools, the Rangers, the Celtics, the Bayern Munich, they're elite, and they've got supporters clubs all over the world that will spend. I mean, we spoke about Del Piero when he was at Sydney FC. Sydney. They reckon he sold 160,000 Sydney FC jerseys
around the world,
overseas.
Yep.
When he played, that's magic marketing. We haven't done that with marquee players. After him, Dwight York, and we had the lad who I thought was one of the best players I've ever seen in the A-League that played in a his name escapes me at Brisbane.
Thomas Broich. Thomas Broich.
Broich.
Yes.
He was
He was unbelievable.
He was and we let him go back to Germany.
Yeah,
crazy. He should be still here.
That's right, exactly.
Guys like him. He was an absolute genius.
I know.
For me, anyway.
He walked into that.
But the fact you were mentioning earlier on, when you look at, someone like, for example, Central Coast Mariners, and you look at the small budget they've got, and how much they've had to cut to the bone to just survive and keep going, you say to yourself, well, can we sustain a full-time league? Currently, in my opinion, we can't. And I've stated this publicly. I don't think the A-League in its current structure will last 25 years that the NSL did. We're in year 20, and we've already got 4 teams that technically are insolvent. By law, they shouldn't be training.
No,
they shouldn't be training.
Kenny, we don't have much time. I need to get to the next topic here. And by the way, this is your favourite topic tonight, Kenny. I want to show you a shirt that you may recognise, Kenny. Do you recognise this shirt at all, Kenny, at all? Do you recognise it from the weekend at all?
I have to tell you, I sat with my 2 grandkids and my daughter.
My God.
And watched this. And Angelo,
what a disgrace.
We speak about this all the time about branding. That was... someone needs to explain it to me. 3 things. Why do we take a full international with a premium brand? It's for premium brand.
In the middle of nowhere.
Where there was a Mr. Whippy van behind the goal.
Jesus Christ.
I kid you not.
There was. I watched it. Kenny, I watched it.
My daughter says to me, Dad, there's a Mr. Whippy van behind the goals.
Mate.
You could see the traffic.
I know.
And everyone sitting on the hill. It was like me going back to the 1970s.
Kenny.
It was the most embarrassing thing. And we shipped that back to Colombia.
Yes.
The people are watching that worldwide and going...
Panama. Panama. And
there's other countries watching that.
They all watched it, Kenny, I just want to...
Angelo watched it. He's going, Kenny, what's going on here?
I'll call this...
And that strip.
Look, there's a strip.
And that strip.
There's a strip there.
I don't care what... A full international playing at home. A full international playing at home, it's got to be green and gold.
Honestly,
nothing else.
Hang on, you know what I called the game, Kenny? I called it the Women All Blacks versus the Panama. The Women All Blacks, mate. It looks like an All Blacks outfit.
Harry, you know what's going to happen?
They're going to get upset.
So many kids have got a cap the other night.
Yes.
Might never get another cap again.
I know.
And they played in that thing, whatever it was.
It was in Bunbury. It was in Bunbury, West Australia. The ground was an AFL ground in the middle of nowhere in Bunbury. You should have seen the ground. There was all these AFL signs that were covered over. You could see the patches everywhere. That was ridiculous.
I could tell you by watching the whole game. The Bunbury bus number 54 comes past there every 22 minutes.
I'm telling you. Gary, did you see the game? Did you see that ground they played on the Matildas? Who is organising this stuff? Who is organising? And every game the Matildas have played this month are all going to be in Perth. What is going on? Are they going to be the Perth Matildas now or what, mate? The Perth Matildas?
I have to say, the last 2 games, the lowest crowds the Matildas have had in 10 years.
I couldn't believe it, mate. They
were selling out stadiums a year ago.
Yeah.
Mate, if they played that game in Sydney or Melbourne, they would have got 42,000.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I don't know. Why wouldn't they play him? I don't understand. Angelo, you talk about brands and how the brands are high. Have a look at what happened on the weekend. What happens here now?
And let's not talk about the quality that we've got coming through.
Oh, God.
That's a real worry. That's the best we've got.
Honestly.
I think, Kenny, you reminded me of something. Yesterday, you won't mind me saying, I was talking to Leah.
Yeah.
Kenny?
No.
Mr. Whippy.
I was talking to Aleague Santoro. May God bless her. I hope she gets better. And she was telling me around that time, and you mentioned Del Piero, you're talking about brands and, you talking about money making and generating, that sort of stuff. Now, Del Piero sold 160,000 shirts. But, gentlemen, it was the first time in history, and I was in Italy here, that the A-League was being beamed in Italy, Sky Television.
They were doing it all the time.
What that tells you, I'll tell you quickly, all of the brands, all the A-League teams and their sponsors on the shirt and on the perimeters of the fencing and all that sort of stuff. They were being showed to Italy and England, and also the fact that Sydney City, because through Lou Sticker, Sydney City actually came to Italy, okay, with the whole squad, and they were able to showcase all of their brands. Now, my question is this, right, and my friends that we speak to about this, what did Sydney FC do in terms of that mileage, that benefit, the reciprocal that were giving back to their sponsors? That was another opportunity to go knocking on the door and saying, hey guys, we're going to Italy, we're going to be showcasing your brand, okay? This team, club is being showcased and showed on television, prime television in Italy, in England. So what am I trying to say? Gary, you don't mind me saying this because you know people that we had working at the club, and we were being monitored every month, Gary, by the FA, okay? Yep. Whether you're a media manager, marketing manager, CEO, we were being monitored as far as the performance of each of those roles. What I'm saying, gentlemen, I don't think that we've got the right people with the right expertise at club level, and maybe there needs to be a bit of a shake-up elsewhere where we've got many leaders. You know, I think that the game has got the opportunities. Gary mentioned before, participation, Socceroos, Matilda, and the Aleague. Gentlemen, this is the key. This is the key. That's why we're not progressing.
Yeah, but Angelo, to put the one of the biggest brands, sporting brands in Australia, playing in the middle of nowhere. This is the point I want to make here. Why put them in that place there? Even Kenny's wearing a black T-shirt tonight, for God's sakes. Look at him. You're wearing a black T-shirt like that.
Well,
that upsets me.
I went straight and bought the kit.
Honestly, Angela, and they're wearing a black kit, mate. The women. Honestly, the New Zealand team will be saying, "Why are they wearing black?" I'm telling you, it's disgusting.
I've got to tell you,
it's disgusting. Black.
Someone else.
Black.
When they came out, all the little ball boys. Ball girls had Subway T-shirts on,
oh my
and
God.
all the signings behind, all the signings of the pitch was comeback.
I saw that. Yes, I did.
I'll stop.
I think the observation you made, Harry, I think that it was a mistake.
It was a big mistake.
Of marketing,
it was stupid.
Strategy. Because had the game been held in Melbourne or Sydney,
50,000.
The Matilda definitely got a bigger crowd. Yeah. I hope they learn. I hope they learn from that mistake. We don't repeat it.
And I want to know how much it cost. I want to know how much it cost to Mr. Whippy van to be able to get behind the goals.
They spent more money on the ice creams than bloody watching the game, mate. I'm telling you that right now.
If you want to bring the crowds in, you've got to have a really, really good team, lots of goals, attractive football, or bring a whippy van in.
And the Matildas lost 1-0. They lost 1-0. That might have been that was a problem. That was a massive problem with them losing that game in that tip. I would call it a tip, mate. They were playing in a tip.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
I think it was. And it's difficult being a coach, and I think he went too far with too many new players.
Yes, he did.
I think if he'd played 4 or 5 of the regulars and brought in 6 or 7, but the other night there was only 2. You know, and Hayley Russell actually was probably one of the worst players on the pitch on the night. She was really poor. So they were, and let's be honest, Panama won that flash either.
56 in the world. 56 in the world.
Yeah, they had a couple of players that looked okay, but it was average at best. And unfortunately, if you're looking at that and saying that's our backup 15, 16 players, we're a long way off. Jesus,
we are a long way off. That's the thing about that too. So there's the brand. That's what happened last weekend. And let me say, there's an announcement maybe next week, a big announcement of a. I can't say much about it until it gets over the line in Victoria. It could be pretty big for the game. It could be really big. I'm busting my guts to do things for the game, Gary. And
go on, tell him, Harry. Tell him.
I can't do it.
He's got his
mate, I tell you what, mate. I don't mind wearing an outfit, Mr. Whippy outfit. If this gets off the ground, I don't mind selling bloody ice creams at this bloody thing because it could be big. I tell you what, mate. Honestly,
I'm having nightmares. I'm not sleeping after seeing that van. I wake up in the middle of the night with a
Jeez, Kenny.
hear the little chiming sound.
I want to say to the person out there who actually from Football Australia who organised that game in the middle of nowhere. I would have preferred a game at the Sahara Desert, mate. There'd be more people there. That's ridiculous. Yeah. I've never seen such rubbish in my life.
Can I make a point here? This is everyone in Australian football. I'm sure it's like this across the world, but in Australian football in particular, everyone's got an opinion. And we're all entitled to our opinion. The one thing I got to go, Football Australia ran a football community engagement workshop in Sydney. I don't know, maybe 10 weeks ago. Brought in member federations, CEOs, chairmen. They brought in A-League clubs, chairmen, technical directors. There was member federation staff there, technical people. There was like 120 people in the room. And after a day's work talking about, and it was all run in a very good spirit, there was no fighting, there was no arguing. But at the end of the day in the summary, the one thing that everyone in the room could agree on is that they couldn't agree on anything.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's just that is the truth right now. So the game's filled with different opinions. Some people put money behind their opinion. They buy an A-League license, we might say, why on earth would you do that? But everyone's in it to some point. But the current structure gives us no capacity to get on the same page. The pages we're not, in most cases, we're not. I don't think we're even in the same book, let alone on the same page. And if you can't bring the community, the other twist to that is really where I started, because I'm an old fart, I've got to go to bed. But where I started was, the good news right now is there's more boys, more girls, more men, more women, more clubs, more referees. The game's never been bigger than it is today. But arguably, it's never been more disjointed than it is today. And I wish the multi-million-dollar question is, how do you fix it? And honestly, I've got no frigging idea.
Let me say one thing about this. Let me go back to the Phillips League, Kenny, of course. And I did hear something when Sir Arthur George, and we all know Sir Arthur George, of course. We know who he is. And at that time when the Phillips League started in 1977, they kept going, of course, a few years after that. They had trouble. They were running it themselves. The NSL were running it themselves. And we've come to the same situation here. The APL are like the NSL. Now, there was a problem, and Sir Arthur George did something and said, all right, we're taking it back. They took it back. So isn't it about time that the Football Australia took the bloody thing back, Kenny? About time they took it back, because it's going to go into the ground shortly, the way it's going.
I don't recollect what you're saying. I don't recollect.
Oh, there was something there. There was something. I checked it out.
The Phillips League ran itself. You might be right. I certainly don't remember that, but I always remember Sir Arthur George, and he ran it. And Brian Lefebvre, you mentioned earlier on,
yes,
who was it was him and Sir Arthur. There was only two of them, pretty much, and that was it, right? Yeah. And if he said jump, you just say how high. But then you had, obviously, the NSL back then had a board. Sam Papazavis was the chairman.
South Melbourne,
and never to be forgiven by Sydney Olympic for
relegating. We know what happened.
Relegating Sydney Olympic.
We know, mate. You should have amalgamated, mate. You should have amalgamated South Melbourne, mate.
Seriously, I've got to say
same colours.
I mean, why is the game so laughable? And that's part of the reason. It's like Spinal Tap on steroids. The chairman of the Phillips Soccer League, who was the chairman of the team that finished second bottom, relegated the team that finished third bottom.
Unbelievable.
You couldn't write about it.
That's Football Australia. Soccer in Australia, mate. That's Soccer in Australia. You can't help it. You can't help it. It's what it is here. Yeah. Change whatever you want at any time.
But he got away with it. And they laugh about Donald Trump. And Sam Papazavis was doing this 50 years ago. Anyway.
Mate, honestly, and that's the moral of the story. Football in Australia. Is that right, Angelo?
Yeah, no, look, what I want to say, Gary made a very good point, and he said, look, where is the solution? I want to say one thing. If we were united, like, for example, I mentioned this on the show other times about the Amateur League. Gary, you would know this as well. The Amateur League is it's practically untouchable. Do you know how much money they generate in Victoria, South Australia, and Football Australia? What do they do about it? I mean, what is the purpose of the Amateur League? They actually generate millions and millions and millions of dollars, but then what is their cost? No one ever asked that. And the reason why I'm saying this, can you imagine if they were affiliated and part of the big federations, and then they would have to make some sort of contribution to the betterment and development of the game? I mean, what does the Amateur League do in terms of the development of the game? This is only one little thing, gentlemen, one little thing. And you might say, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, what does the FA do about it? For example, Sir Arthur George, as Harry mentioned before, took the league back.
That's right.
If you remember, Gary, the league was won by clubs at one stage.
It was.
Big mistake.
That's what happened.
Big mistake. A big mistake. Now, we've done that again with Danny Townsend. He took it over. All of a sudden, we blew 140 million. No one knows what's happening. There's an investigation, whatever. So what I'm saying, at the end, the moral of this story is the FA, that is the governing body, needs to take the game back.
Exactly.
And map out a new direction. As you know, we've always, Gary, when we were running the A-League, we always went to the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? The NPL clubs, the Amateur League, the Junior Association, all of the football family was behind it. And we even had that word, football family. So I think it's time for Football Australia to take it back. Take the A-League back and run with them.
It's got to happen. Gary, it's got to happen at some stage. Otherwise, there'd be no National League again.
Well, I've already put my hand up and confessed. I'm past. I'm past being able to guess how to fix it because I just can't see how you can get any agreement.
No,
Football Australia, the governing body in Australia, but really powerless because the member federation, we've got a federated model. There's 9 different member federations.
Too many federations.
Their own chairman, their own CEOs, etc., etc. And for Football Australia to maintain total control, we'd have to do away with the federated model, and that means getting the turkeys to vote for Christmas, and that ain't happening.
And don't forget Mr. Whippy, by the way. We need him too for dessert, of course. That's the thing, boys. Boys, thank you for joining me tonight, Gary. I mean, Kenny's got his dinner in the oven there. We've got to let him have it now. So, of course, Angelo. So, guys, thank you, Gary. It's an amazing night. Thank you, and a very historical night with all those documents, boys.
Gary, good to see you.
Thank you for joining me, guys, tonight, Angelo. I've got something to talk to you about later on if I can ring you.
Good to see you.
Thanks, guys. What an amazing night, guys, with the history of the game as well. We're talking about everything. What happened tonight was amazing. Some of the issues, the Matildas, all sorts of stuff happening, guys. Thank you for my football list tonight, guys. Thank you. What a show we've got next week. We've got someone from the Premier League coming on. Oh, boy. That's going to be big. Check it out. Thank you, guys. Feel it. Don't be shy, guys. I'm on both screens now. Left and right stereo. I think it's stereo. Here we go. Hey! The cup of life. This is the one. Now is the time. Don't ever stop. We should have known. Gotta be strong. We should have known. Right from the top. And when you feel the heat, the world is at your feet. No one can hold you back if you really want it. I see it in your eyes. We're going to be back next week, guys, at 8 p.m. Someone who worked with some serious footballers from Australia is going to be joining us next week from the Premier League. Good night, guys, footballers. Here we go. Good night, guys. See you next week, 8 p.m. Monday. Thank you.